A new report argues that companies like Facebook and Google can no longer regulate themselves. It's recommending the creation of a powerful new government regulator to oversee social media platforms. The federally funded report also says those firms should have a legal duty to act responsibly and ensure harmful content is taken down quickly. Former Supreme Court Justice Beverly McLaughlin is one of the 7 commissioners who penned this report. To start, I'd like to ask you to help us understand what this would look like concretely. So how would social media sites look different if there was this duty to act responsibly?
Probably not very different. All we're suggesting is what we would hope everyone is already doing, which is a duty to act responsibly, and ultimately perhaps a development under the regulator with a code of ethics and conduct, which will give some guidance to users and to platforms in how they can achieve that.
If you say that you hope that companies are already acting responsibly, that it wouldn't necessarily make a big difference, then why is this needed?
Well, I'm not saying that they are always acting responsibly. I think they acknowledge, by and large, a duty to do so. Mm-hmm. Where we need help, I think, is figuring out what goes into acting responsibly. And you know, the internet is a wonderful thing. It's given many people platforms that enhance their freedom of speech, and freedom of speech is a wonderful thing, and it's guaranteed in our Charter of Rights. But sometimes speech can harm, and the harms that are associated with the internet are very special and sometimes very quick. So most states are now seeing the need for some sort of regulation and guidance to be put in place so that these harms can be minimized without in any way making incursions on freedom of speech that would be inappropriate.
And I guess that's what this all comes down to, is what is appropriate. Obviously, we know this is going to address things like online hate speech, harassment. I wonder, though, about disinformation, for instance. How would that be taken into account?
Well, disinformation is a prickly topic, because certainly people should have the right to not have to vet every statement they make before they put it online, and we don't want to inhibit open and discussion. But at some point it may be, and we didn't go into a lot of detail on this, and it'll be up to Parliament, but it is conceivable that you would have focused disinformation coupled with fairly obvious probability of harm either to individuals or democratic institutions. And at that point, there might be some sort of appropriate reaction taken. Now, what that will be will depend on what Parliament decides to do. And there's a lot of study and work that's going to have to go into it. Our commission is simply suggesting some broad brush goals that and problems that should be looked at.
And I understand the desire to keep it broad because, of course, I mean, you just laid out many of the reasons. But I wonder if you could give the audience a specific example of something that you, whether it's just something you've seen on your own or something that you encountered while you were working on this, where you can suggest that would be a good example of something that should be handled differently.
Yeah, well, there's a whole range of harms, ranging from internet sites that feed hatred and sometimes have been linked to violence, such as the terrible shooting we saw in the mosque in Quebec City not too long ago. That is at one end, and there you might need monitoring and takedown of that kind of speech that's counseling violence. I'm just speculating now, it'll all be up to Parliament. But and then there's a whole range of harms that work through bullying and disinformation and many others. And there will be different responses to different harms. Personally, I think a lot of disinformation should be tolerated, and it's only when it's directly going to threaten some sort of harm that could happen. But you could envisage.
Sorry, can I ask you about that? Like COVID disinformation is obviously a big topic right now. Perpetuating things like the plandemic, right? These conspiracy theories, ultimately that can lead to harm. People aren't wearing masks. Like for you, would that be an example, or is that the kind of thing where you say hands off?
I mean, it could be if it got to a national emergency sort of situation. And there's different ways to counter disinformation. I mean, you can present real information, true information. You can put warnings up. You can do all sorts of things short of taking people's right to say what they believe away from them. And so it's a very delicate business. And this is why we're proposing a regulator who will develop a code of ethics. We're proposing a citizens council where citizens themselves could debate where the limits should be. And we're proposing that there should be some sort of dispute resolution mechanism, some sort of online, if you wish, tribunal that people could say, I'm worried about this, and experts could help them with their concern, resolve their issue, or look into it. So there's a panoply of things that need to be looked at, and it's quite a sophisticated. It will be quite a sophisticated endeavor, and one that I hope that the public will participate in, because this is just the beginning. And if we have a hope, it's that our commission will spur public discussion about where the lines should be drawn on many of these complex and difficult issues.
You've talked to the Heritage Minister about this, your group has. Are you confident that this isn't just going to be another report that goes onto a bookshelf? Or you have assurances that some of this is going to become a reality?
Well, my impression is that the Heritage Minister is very serious about bringing forward legislation in the near future. But you'd have to ask him about where he stands on that on a day-to-day basis. But I know he wants to. I think, like many other states, Canadians are beginning to realize that some sort of regulatory guidance here will be salutary, and without interrupting or disrupting people's freedom of speech inordinately, will prevent some of the more egregious harms and allow people a way to express their concerns in a more public way.
I do want to ask you one last question on a different topic, if I might. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada, as you know, is now acting as Governor General, and I just wonder, given your own role in the past, do you have any concerns about the Chief Justice staying in that role for too long?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that, because what is too long? But our Constitution clearly has set up continuity, which is essential to our democracy, that if the Governor General departs or dies or is unable to perform functions, the Chief Justice will step in. But clearly that was envisioned not as a permanent sort of thing, and but we'll see what happens. But I'm confident that the office of the Governor General will remain functioning and strong in the interim, just as the Constitution intended.
And right now, you would describe it as, given everything that's gone on recently, functioning and strong?
Well, I don't know what's going on. I hope there has to be a way that the basic functions of the Governor General continue. If there were, for example, a governmental crisis or something like that. Or on one occasion, when I was Chief Justice, I stood in for Adrienne Clarkson, who had a health issue, and I attended the state funeral of the former Governor General Ray Natishan. And so there has to be somebody to perform these functions at all times. And the Constitution says, while when a vacancy occurs, the Chief Justice steps in, but clearly it's not envisioned in the Constitution as a permanent sort of thing.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.